The air shimmered with a crackle of energy as Peter Parker swung through the streets of New York, his senses alive with the hum of the city. He wasn't just swinging to fight crime today. No, today was something else. Something big. He was teaming up with Dr. Strange, one of the greatest sorcerers in the universe, for a magical mission that would, if successful, keep reality itself from collapsing. Simple stuff, right? It wasn't. Nothing ever was, especially not when magic was involved. Peter had never truly understood magic, not in the way Stephen Strange did. Magic, to him, always felt like something out of his depth. He was a scientist. He liked equations, facts, and the logic of his web shooters. Magic? That was wild, unpredictable. Still, when the Sorcerer Supreme called, you answered. How could he not? The streets of Greenwich Village swirled with the mystic winds of a looming disaster as Peter arrived at the Sanctum Sanctorum. Dr. Strange stood on the steps, eyes narrowed in concentration as he muttered incantations under his breath. Peter swung down, landing gracefully in front of him. "About time, kid," Strange greeted, his tone dry as always, but there was a flicker of worry in his eyes. "We've got a situation." "Yeah, I can feel that." Peter scanned the sky. It was like reality itself was bending. Cracks rippled through the atmosphere, warping the edges of the world. "What's going on? Is that magic?" Strange sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. "A tear in the fabric of reality. The dimensions are starting to overlap. And to make matters worse, it's not just some random tear. It's being actively manipulated by someone. Someone very powerful." Peter's spider sense tingled. It wasn't the usual danger awareness he felt when facing a thug or a supervillain. It was something deeper, more primal, like his body was attuned to an entirely different kind of threat. A magical one. "Let me guess," Peter said, tapping his chin. "Old foes are involved?" "Not just involved," Strange muttered, grimacing. "They've gained magical powers. Whoever's behind this tear has given them the means to alter reality itself." "Great," Peter groaned. "My luck really is just the worst." "So who's on the list this time?" Strange's eyes flashed. "Green Goblin, Vulture, Electro, Dr. Octopus, they're all here, but they're not just the criminals you know. They're empowered, enhanced by magic. We need to close the tier, before the dimensions merge and collapse into one." Peter could feel the weight of the responsibility hanging in the air. "All right, so how do we stop this?" Dr. Strange's expression darkened. "You're going to have to take on the mantle. The Eye of Agamotto is the only tool powerful enough to fix the rift, and it has chosen you." Peter blinked. "Wait, me? I don't—" But before he could protest, the Eye of Agamotto appeared before him, floating in the air with a soft glow. It was strange, unlike anything he'd ever seen. More than a mere trinket, it felt alive, ancient, and powerful. It seemed to reach out to him, beckoning him to take it. He hesitated. This wasn't just a simple fight with criminals. This was something far beyond his understanding, yet as the eye hovered closer, something clicked. Maybe it was his spider sense, or maybe it was the same drive that had gotten him through countless battles. He reached out and took the eye in his hands. Immediately he felt a surge of power. A flood of images and sensations rushed into his mind, some familiar, some strange. Magic. Magic intertwined with science. A world of unknowns, but one that he was connected to. "Okay, I'm in," Peter said, voice firm. Strange nodded. The eye has chosen wisely. It was as if the moment he held the eye, his senses, his true senses, expanded. His spider sense flared stronger than ever, but now he could feel the weave of magic through the air, the hidden currents of energy that flowed beneath reality. He could see how things connected, how every action reverberated through the fabric of existence. But he wasn't just Peter Parker anymore. The world felt heavier, like his thoughts and every decision he made carried the weight of the multiverse itself. "We need to move quickly," Strange said. "I'll deal with the Goblin. You take Electro. He's been siphoning energy from "The tier," Peter nodded. "On it. But, I'm gonna need some pointers." "This whole magic thing isn't exactly my forte," Strange smirked. "Just remember, Peter, magic is science just misunderstood." Peter didn't have much time to think about Strange's cryptic advice before he was swinging through the streets again, this time with a new understanding of the world around him. Every pulse of his spider sense seemed to guide him toward the disturbances in the magical energy. He could feel them, as if the air itself had a frequency, a rhythm. His webs didn't just hold to physical surfaces anymore, they clung to the very threads of magic that held the world together. He found Electro standing atop a skyscraper, his body crackling with raw energy, his face twisted into a grotesque smile. The moment Peter landed, the villain's eyes gleamed with malevolent power. "Spider-Man," Electro sneered. "Or should I say, Sorcerer Spider? I'm no longer the simple electrician you once defeated. I control the currents of the universe now." Peter grinned, trying to mask his nervousness. "Look, I'm really flattered by the upgrade, but I'm pretty sure you're still the same old jerk. Just with a little more static cling," Electro snarled, hurling a bolt of lightning toward Peter. Instinctively, Peter raised his hand, and, before he even realized what was happening, the Eye of Agamotto flared to life. A golden shield of magic formed around him, absorbing the lightning with ease. He felt the energy crackle through him, and suddenly, he understood. The currents of magic were like the currents of electricity. They could be redirected, harnessed. They were both forces that could be manipulated. He raised his hand, a flick of his wrist, and the energy around him shifted. With a surge of magic, Peter redirected the lightning back at Electro, striking him down with a burst of power. Electro collapsed to the ground, his magic short-circuited, but Peter couldn't bask in the victory for long. A scream echoed through the streets as the tear in reality began to widen, drawing the sky itself into the vortex. He swung back toward the Sanctum Sanctorum, his mind racing. Magic. Science. They weren't opposites. They were two sides of the same coin. Understanding that balance was key, and with his spider sense intertwined with the eye's power, Peter now had the insight to see beyond the immediate threats. He arrived just in time to see Dr. Strange battling Green Goblin, who now wielded his own mystical powers. The Goblin was a whirlwind of destructive force, hurling spells with the same ferocity he once reserved for pumpkin bombs. "Strange!" Peter shouted. "I've got this! Focus on closing the rift!" Strange glanced at him, startled. "Peter, don't!" But Peter was already there, his webs lashing out and binding Goblin's hands. He twisted the webbing around him, concentrating not on physical strength, but on the very essence of the magic Goblin was manipulating. He could feel the pull of the magic, its chaotic nature. It was like trying to contain a storm in his hands. With a surge of will, Peter focused, directing his own newfound magical power through the webbing. The magic wrapped around Goblin like a cage, and Peter felt the webbing begin to drain the rogue sorcerer's strength. Green Goblin struggled, but the more he fought, the weaker he became, until he finally slumped, his magical powers ebbing away. "Okay, now that's one villain down," Peter said, breathing hard. "But we've still got that tier to fix." Dr. Strange nodded, his face serious. "I knew you'd come through. Now let's finish this." Together they focused on the tier. Peter felt the flow of magic, the convergence of dimensions, the clash of realities. It wasn't just about raw power, it was about understanding the flow, the connections, the way all things interlinked. The science of magic and the magic of science. With the Eye of Agamotto glowing brighter than ever, Peter reached out and wove the strands of magic back together. Slowly, painstakingly, the tier began to close, and reality stabilized. As the last threads of the tier sealed, Peter looked around. The world was quiet, safe for now. He had done it. "I guess you were right," Peter said, turning to Dr. Strange. "Magic isn't so different from science. You just have to learn to think beyond the formulas." Strange gave him a wry smile. Exactly. And you've learned that quicker than I expected, Spider-Man. Peter looked at the eye in his hand, feeling the weight of its power. It wasn't just about fighting, it was about understanding, about balance, and maybe, just maybe, he was beginning to understand what it truly meant to be a hero. Not just in the physical realm, but in the magical one as well. He swung off into the city, his mind alive with the possibilities, magic and science. It was all part of the same web.